Amid an ongoing trade war between Washington and Beijing, analysts are looking at whether President-elect Biden will be tougher or softer on China. To look at the implications of COVID-19, trade, and the military.
The year of COVID, half the planet still appears to be in lockdown.
This is Dean Cheng, a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation.
And China does not appear to be one of those countries. The economic statistics do seem to indicate that the Chinese have gone back to work. But what's striking is that we are now seeing more and more reports finally exploring how China handled COVID in the early days before it became a global pandemic. And the tenor of the reports pretty clearly indicate that China did, in fact, frankly, lie about the scale of the disease, about when it knew. Even now, we're not really sure the timeline of the early days, where exactly it emerged from. Although the Chinese main point has always been, and it didn't come from China. And you do have to wonder then about folks like the Europeans who have basically said Americans are not welcome into Europe without a 2-week quarantine. But if you're from China, come on in. Makes you wonder about how well Europe is going to be able to handle the next wave of COVID.
Yeah, there's an interesting phenomena happening right now, and I think when it comes to responsibility for the early days of COVID-19, as we come up on the 1-year anniversary of it entering the United States, the idea of holding anyone accountable seems to be an afterthought because everyone's amid this pandemic still trying to fight the virus and also get the vaccines rolled out. Is there an idea that once a Biden administration comes in, things will be any different in terms of an American government holding China accountable for their actions?
Well, let's be upfront. First off, this campaign and the press coverage of it was frankly terrible. And part of it is that no one, as far as I can remember, ever really tried to discuss international policy, foreign affairs, national security policy. And so we have no good sense at all of what the Biden administration is going to do about China. We have a lot of platitudes that, of course, Mr. Biden will be absolutely toughest on China. Well, when he was vice president, he did not work in an administration that was especially tough on China. It was an administration that stopped doing FONOPs in the South China Sea for 3 years. And you have to wonder whether anything has changed to make Mr. Biden be more tough on the Chinese. Now, one of the things he has said is, well, if I am tough on China, which of course I will be, I'll work with my allies. Well, our allies, it appears, since Election Day, have steadily rolled back how tough they're willing to be on China. As I said, the Europeans have already said they'll let the Chinese in without even a quarantine. Several countries which had just said that they wouldn't let Huawei into their 5G networks are now flipping on that again. Germany came out already and said, no, Huawei can come into our 5G networks. So how do you work with allies who are pretty much saying to the Chinese, we want to be your friends? So I'm not optimistic.
It's a good question. We talked about this a little bit before, but I want to rehash it again, especially as we talk about this in the context of an incoming administration. What are some of the executive type actions that could be taken by a President Biden to hold China accountable, if that is a decision he makes, if that is a road he decides to go down?
So let's begin with the most obvious ones. Foreign and defense policy are largely the purview of the executive branch. So in the previous administration, in the Obama administration, it was an executive decision. And the reporting at the time pretty clearly indicates it came from the White House and the NSC, not to patrol the South China Sea, not to really push the Chinese on the national security front. So a Biden administration will have to make that choice because the Trump administration has been doing FONOPs and ship transit of the Taiwan Straits and things like that just about every other month. So what is Mr. Biden going to order the Defense Department Indo-PACOM to do? Second thing is to engage in trade issues. The Trump administration has pursued a trade war. What will the Biden people do? Will they hold the Chinese accountable for the vast intellectual property thefts that China has waged? The Trump administration chose to use tariffs as one of the key tools there. A third is prosecutions of spies, of people who are taking Chinese money without reporting it to the U.S. government, which is illegal when you are taking U.S. government money. There's been something like on the order of 15 to 20 indictments in the last year and a half or so of various professors who were, basically working on research in the United States but reporting it back to China. Will a Biden administration follow up on that? And finally, the Biden people have said the greatest threat facing America, in their view, is climate change. Now, when the Obama people said that, we saw an end of FONOPs apparently at the same time that we got the Chinese to show up at COP21. Chinese made all sorts of environmental provinces. It's worth noting that they're still building something like 40 coal-fired power plants, despite their promises. So it'll be interesting to see what does a Biden administration do about try to do to get the Chinese to show up for the next round of environmental issues if they really believe that climate change is the most dangerous threat facing America. Will they give China a pass on intellectual property theft, on cyber espionage? Will they reopen Chinese access to American solar panel markets, which a number of Chinese and American companies would like to see? What are they really willing to do? Oh, and one last thing to think about here. In the Obama administration, it turns out Chinese companies did not have to abide by Sarbanes-Oxley, the financial reporting requirements imposed on all American companies, which meant that Chinese companies, their auditing and all of that was probably not nearly as transparent as that required of American companies. The Trump people, I believe, have at least issued an executive order reversing that. We'll see what the Biden people do.